everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for our Saturday night Facebook Live. It's been a long time since we did a Facebook Live. I was actually pregnant at the time.
I think it was September.
Wow, it's a long time. We wanted to be able to communicate with everybody to bring our faces to behind face Ontario Landlords Watch to you. So the one thing that we want to talk about tonight is the changes that we are trying to advocate for at a provincial level regarding the changes to the Residential and Tenancy Act and the Landlord and Tenant Board. In this way, we can work together as a team to advocate what is going to be good for not only the good landlords, the good tenants, as well as our taxpayers. So we have a report. So if you haven't seen the report, we're going to discuss it quickly, not too quickly here on Facebook Live tonight. But if you haven't, please email us at olwlandlords@gmail.com and we'll be able to send you a report. Because this report, we want to get your opinion on it. It was gathered by the information that we got from our Facebook group members, which you guys are amazing for throwing out all those different type of solutions. And then once you get that report, review it and then send it to your MPP, the Minister of Housing, his assistant, Perm Gill, as well as the Ontario Ombudsman. And we also want to send it to the Attorney General's office. And just for luck, send it to your media, because this is something that we really want to see pushed forth in the bill that's going to be coming out in the spring from the Minister of Housing, is these type of changes that are going to benefit the entire housing industry, not just the greedy landlords that we tend to be.
Are we greedy landlords?
I think so. That's what all the groups are saying.
Oh, sorry, I'm misinformed.
So right now we want to kind of discuss that. One, we looked at all the major issues. We have about 20 different issues that we're going to try to talk about tonight within this hour. Number one is going to be what we've gathered from all landlords across Ontario is the non-payment of rent. You guys are looking in the book like you don't even know it. Like, you guys know this stuff.
Yeah, you said here's the book. So why not use it?
So first and foremost, it's going to be the non-payment of rent. So this is something that landlords are going to the Landlord and Tenant Board. We are 90% of the applications being brought to the Landlord and Tenant Board. We're keeping the Landlord and Tenant Board afloat based on the type of fees that landlords are applying for to have our issues dealt with.
Especially with the new fees that are coming soon.
The new fees?
Yeah, the additional charges.
Oh, I think you said new fees. I'm like,
yeah, we're bringing the new fees.
I'm like, what are you gonna say about the new fees? I'm like, what?
The new fees.
New fees, not new fees. So
everything's about you, Kayla.
Sorry. I just knew it's Cambridge. They have like a lot of new fees. Anyways, so the new fees of 6% that they decided to give themselves a nice little increase when landlords can only raise their rate to 2.2% this year.
But anyway, thought we wouldn't complain because this is the first time it's been over 2% in a while.
We're taking it. We're going to take it, but again, this is part of our solutions that we want to talk about rent increases and how we can actually work it where it's fair and not on a cap level of 2.5%. But anyways, let me get it out before I lose my train of thought. I still got baby brain. So we have the non-payment of rent, and this is the non-payment of rent that seems to be it's the number one application at the Landlord and Tenant Board.
Now, well, based on the numbers here, if somebody hasn't paid the rent in 5 months, so with all the applications they have, right here is the ones for the non-payment of rent. So far, landlords are using per year $291 million. That's the number.
So we have 58,423 applications being brought to the board for non-payment of rent.
Yeah.
Now, what way can we fix this where landlords are not having to deal with this at the Landlord and Tenant Board, because there's nothing in the RTA that states that a tenant can withhold the rent unless it's regarding the standard lease that you have to give them a copy of within, I believe, 21 days?
Yes.
21 days.
But they have to have a written, they have to write you, ask for it in writing for them to get that.
Okay, so we got
bonus.
Really, you need to be able to pay your rent. So we have our adjudicators who get paid $110,000 a year to deal with non-payment rent. So what we're trying to encourage our elected officials as well as the ombudsman is to be able to take the non-payment of rent, the N4, the L1 applications out of the Landlord and Tenant Board. We keep we know about the struggles that are happening at the landlord tenant board and the backlog and the long delays to getting our hearings heard, but do we really need more adjudicators, or do we need to really look at their workload that they are currently experiencing? And the number one would be the non-payment of rent. Now, we can have a customer service officer. So, you know, when you call and you're on the phone for like 45 minutes and being able to wait to see if they have a judgment or your paperwork is finally wrote and is being sent out in the mail, we're going to have a process where when you file your N4 application, it's being dealt with by them, and there's a standard notice that's going out to the tenants where they now have a certain amount of time. Now, if you want to go over the time frame that we worked with for this report.
Let's see the time frame.
So this way, it's about, we're not trying to kick out people fast. We're not trying to, in a way that it's going to really put more pressure on the homeless population, because there's another side of it where it's going to involve more government funding as well as just their involvement, but the money is going to be saved elsewhere in order to put money in those type of funding.
So if we're doing it this way, then it's 21 days to pay before the eviction comes in. Currently, the tenant only has 14. So although they may have a little bit longer time, we have more action in terms of making the judgment and making it stick.
So now that we have the 21 days, this is now time for these tenants to now locate the funding. So if anyone has ever dealt with a tenant that's not able to pay rent and they still seek different type of government funding elsewhere, we have it in Cambridge's Lutherwood. And we have the same type of agencies in other cities, they're just different type of titles to them. So if we can kind of allocate the tenants into that process where they actually have to meet with a worker, talk about why they were late on the rent, and get the funds granted to them through these type of funding. Now you probably say, well, there's not enough funding. We're already broke as it is. How are we supposed to fund these people's? Well, one, if you're not hiring the adjudicators that we need at $110,000 a piece, not only that, but we have service managers. Service managers are working in the regions, and they technically do what we do. You know, here's the issue, here's the solution, here's a program that we can kind of work in order to encourage more landlords to work with us. They get paid $96,000 a year. Or we talk about the way that they're building their own social housing, more government housing. So the type of housing that we have right now in the region of Waterloo, there was 48 units that are going to be built in Kitchener. The land was given to the developer by the church, and we have provincial, federal, and municipal funding that is going to help get that 48 units off the ground. With, of course, it's going to be government taxpayer subsidy that's going to be happening with that. Now, I'm pretty bad with math, but $12.7 million is what it's going to cost to develop 48 units. Now, our thought process was, what if you took $12.7 million and put it into a sum of $70,000? So if you had $70,000, could you create a secondary suite in your basement? Now, if you gave that money to a homeowner and they created a secondary suite, how long would it actually take for you to create that secondary suite? First of all,
6 months.
6 months. And yes. 6 months. Even I was talking to Tom Sullivan today. He was, I think, 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, really?
If you have your contractors and you're ready to go,
you're ready to go. Yeah. The problem is Cambridge doesn't allow you to get permits that quickly. So here, I would agree with more along the 6 month timeline, because I've got permits here and it's like 2 months before they give you a permit.
So again, we'll start talking based on the fact that our municipal policies need to be reviewed on each and every city in Ontario in order for allow us to do it. Now, if they would say, like, we have to make sure the permits and the safety and this, we have people dying on the street, and you have crazy people like us that want to invest. So how are they going to, take their time in getting us permits when they have to speed up that process as well? And we'll have to talk about how we can speed up that process later on down the road. But again, if you take that $12.7 million and gave it to 171 people, 171 houses, you're creating 171 units, and they're also going to take 171 homeowners and give them an extra income. So someone who's inside of their home. Their kids are all grown up. It doesn't make sense for them to downsize now in 2020 like they used to.
Mhm.
This is now a policy where they're now going to take that money and put it into their unit, and they have a steady flow of income now coming in regarding putting someone in their basement. So how they go from 48 units at 12.7 versus giving it to homeowners, and even though, homeowners are going to be looking at the fact that they're going to be like, okay, you're giving me 70,000, but the RTA and the LTB is so tilted towards protecting the tenants, I'm not going to do it. And that's why the region of Waterloo would call me and they said, Kill, I got this program. So what's your program? We're going to guarantee the rent, and we're going to guarantee the damage beyond normal wear and tear. They didn't say how much, and then we're going to give you a mediator. And this mediator is going to help you if the communication breaks down between you and your tenant. And I'm like, guarantee the rent's nice. Covering the damages is nice. How much? If they walk out with the copper in the walls, are you covering that? And then the mediator with the RT and the LTB the way it is, it's going to be backfiring in landlords' faces because they're going to teach each party the rules and regulations and keep tenants in their unit a lot longer. So how this program that they're creating, that they're spending time on creating, is not working. This is where you have to talk with private investors before you can go ahead and create a program such as that. So we already see the savings on our adjudicators. We see the savings on our condensing our service managers throughout Ontario so that the money saved from giving them $96,000 a year, that's now going to be saved. And then we're showing that with 171 units compared to 48 units, the money is going to be saved there. And not only that, but we now are creating a supply and demand. We're actually addressing the supply and demand issue. The way that people think now it's affordability. No, it's a supply and demand issue. So we need to help. We have a tool bag for landlords, and there's no tools inside of it that the government has given us. They're using landlords as an emergency shelter. The government in itself, there's more savings right there when the region of Waterloo is spending $400,000 for 70 beds for temporary shelter relief through the winter months. Take that $400,000 and give it to the people in order to keep them in their homes, because they know it's actually very, very expensive to keep them on the streets and in the system than it is to keep them in their homes. So we actually have this overall capacity. We keep giving to charities and these social agencies when all they have to do is create that even, fair, balanced system that benefits the good and the landlords. I bet our normal taxpayers who have no clue about what it's like to be a landlord in Ontario, they're going to be like, wow, the government's really mismanaging my money. For people who I know are renting a one-bedroom unit, all-inclusive, for $115.
Government subsidy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rent geared income. And when you're on social assistance, you technically, for one person, it's usually about $378 for shelter. But the rent for them is now $115, and then the rest of it's being subsidized. So again, that's another citement regarding the way that the government's running their own social housing.
Well, there's no money for repairs either in social housing. That's why. The rents are so low that there's no money for repairs.
John Tory decided to come up, and he was so excited. He's like, we got billions of dollars to repair our stock. Not to keep making it, it's to repair the stock. Mm-hmm. And we're like, you have landlords and you're giving us, either funds. We're okay with not having funds. We're okay with just having a balanced RTA and LTB. But hey, if you want to give us funds, we're there to do the management, so the government's not paying, taxpayers are not paying the management, and the taxpayers are not even paying for the maintenance portion of it. And we're going to be able to run that place a lot better than the way that the government currently is. Because if you ask anyone out there that who is the biggest slumlord, it would be social housing. Just in my opinion, personally.
I think that's pretty accurate. I don't think that's your opinion.
I get so passionate about this, and this is the part that we're really trying to get this report out to all of the members in the group to review it. What do you like? Copy, paste it, whatever you want to see push through, and send it into these elected officials. I want to teach you to do what I do. We just had a meeting in November with Parm Gill. There was 11 of us around that table. And you know what? He had no clue. He knew what there's issues, but he had no clue what these real issues were and what the solutions could potentially be. And when he has a friend in Calgary, I think it was it Calgary he had a friend? And he said, hey, why don't you invest?
Yeah.
He's the biggest landlord in Calgary. And he's like, why don't you invest here in Ontario? And the guy's like, no, Ontario is the worst. It absolutely worst. And we want to go based on the fact that you look at other provinces, and that's what we're doing now as a group, to look at other provinces to see what's working in their province and how we could potentially adopt it in our province, such as the 6% increase that everyone's now going to be receiving for the application process in Ontario. It's $0 in PEI, and it goes all the way up to $75 in Alberta.
In Alberta, you have a choice. You can actually go to the LTB, or you can go to small claims, whichever's faster. LTB is $100, so small claims is $100 to apply, and the LTB is $75 to apply. So it just depends on whatever you want to do.
So this is the part where why are we being charged $200 to file to a board to get a piece of paper that we still have to go to small claims court in order to try and get a garnishment. And when the tenant can move around their jobs, and when they can close a bank account and open up a bank account, the paper.
Or they file for bankruptcy and then they never have to pay you.
People think that you can go and collect right away. It's literally, you almost got to cut your losses. And when landlords cut their losses, it's not about cutting our losses. It's about passing that buck to the next tenant. And that's why these tenants are now seeing an increase in our type of rent. Thanks, Kaylee. She's like, preach. But this is the part where we need to say, we have to look at other provinces, but not so much as look at and copy. We have to create our own. We need to create, if Ontario, the Ford government says that we're open for business, we need to show we're open to business for these investors who are all over Ontario, all over Canada, and all over the world investing into this place. But the way that our number one concern is for non-payment of rent is going to be catastrophic to why we're going to continue to keep increasing our rents throughout Ontario. And I don't know about you, but every time my tenants move, it's constantly an increase on the rents that have to go up. Why? Because all of our utilities are gone up, our insurance has gone up, our property tax has gone up. And this is where the media is now taking effect into, we have more rent eviction applications being brought through. We have more personal use applications brought through. Landlords are fed up in Ontario. And that's why you might see landlords not doing a lot of their maintenance, because of the fact that the rules are tilted towards protecting the tenants. We can only raise our rent to the 2.2%. So do us a favor, remove the N4 out of the landlord and tenant board process, have a streamlined approach, because these tenants need to know the number one bill that you need to pay is your rent. There's no point in paying your hydro, paying your utility bills and your cable bill when you don't have a place to actually pay, for it to go to. So we have to stop having a society, like there's a petition being drafted around with lowering our rents because it's hard. Well, yeah, the prices of food have gone up, everything's gone up.
Well, and with just a case in the States, actually, they just made a law that they can't evict anybody in the wintertime. So if you're a tenant, you don't have to pay at all in the wintertime, and then you can start paying again in April. So that's and it's not so far that it can't come here.
And you know what? A rumor is always our question was, can you evict people in the wintertime?
That's a very common question.
And you know what? Don't give the government any ideas, because they might push that here. Why? Because then they don't have to cover the emergency shelters that are going to be happening all over the place because of the fact that people are going through a process.
In the winter.
Now, again, we'll talk about non-payment rent, and we'll talk about ODSP and OW. So people would say, I tell all the elected officials this, I said, I have people in my rental units who are on OW and ODSP. I do not discriminate against them, but a lot of our landlords out there are discriminated against them for many reasons. One, they don't make enough, but I get it on the other side of it. You can't make it very appealing and give them more money to cover the shelters, because then there's no incentives to get off the system. You both huffed at the same time on that one. I'm like, what's happening? So now that we have our OW and our ODSP people, the money is, they would say it's guaranteed to the landlord, and the tenants will indeed give that direct payment to the landlord. A lot of the times, if there's any discrepancies regarding any type of maintenance, or if there's any, ruining the enjoyment of others, and the landlords are doing their part and giving the form, that usually tends to piss off the tenants. Now they're like, oh, you're going to kick me out because of this? Well, I ain't going to pay my rent. So now the money that used to be direct can now be redirected back to the tenants. And when you talk to the elected officials, they say, we have to give people the benefit of the doubt that they got to pay their bills. Well, because of that, depending on why they're on it, sometimes there's mental health, sometimes there's addiction, but now you gave them the option to have that money into their hand, to start the downward spiral of them in the eviction process. We have to start allocating, if it's for shelter, and it literally says on that document, shelter. So give it to the landlord, and only an N9 or an N11 can stop that. And my husband has my baby at the door, playing with him. Jen's smiling at me, throwing me off, like, give it up.
He's an adorable baby, but he likes to cry when you're not around him. So
he does love me. He does love me, but he is coming to Ottawa with me, so he's not going to cry too much. But anyways, so we have to get our concept into taking that money, allocate it where it needs to be. And again, we have to work it in where it's actually going to be there. And I know it's not a lot, but we have to work in some type of government programs to work it in where it gives us the market rent. We have social housing, and it's an unsustainable housing program that the government has. When people get in, there's no incentive for them to move out. So if you have a mom and her 2 kids and they're down on their luck and they need housing, that's one thing. And then they meet a husband, and then now all of a sudden they're moved in together into government housing, so they just get charged market rent. How many, and that's what our advocacy work is, we want to know how many social housing units are being paid market rent compared to the subsidy and the lower end units, because we're taking a unit off the market. That family should be moving into our units, but because of the way that their program works and the way landlords are and the lack of supply, they can't do it.
Plus, there's no eviction allowing for that. In other provinces, they have evictions for that, but there's no eviction right now for LTB to get those people that are not qualifying anymore out of social housing and into regular housing.
So this is the concept that we have to work with, creating a sustainable system for them, and it doesn't clash with us, it works with us. It works like a puzzle piece. So that way, even for people who, we're saying our solutions are not going to be a one size fits all. We do, like I said, have our mental health and our addiction, but at least allow the social housing, the government funded housing, to be there for those type of people. And then we can look at the fact that social workers who need to deal with these people, to wrap these services that they preach so much around people with mental health and addiction, wrap the services around them, and you're having them deal with one location. Now, I get it with people like that, like it might cause, a overall problem area, I guess is what they would probably call it. But again, it's about wrapping the services around those people. And what we're saying is not going to be one size fits all, but a majority of it is that we just have people that are unable to pay for the current rates that are currently increasing. Now that I got that N4 out of my system, because that's the number one issue, and that's the top one that we really want to push out of all 20, because it's the government. We need to narrow ourselves down into top 3. We'll probably squeeze in a 4th one if we possibly can, and that would be the N4, and then we have the OW and ODSP, because we need to open the door for them. Then let's talk about the rent increases. Let's talk about how we're capped at 2.5%, and we only got 2.2 this year. And then we have to look at what type of rental units does Ontario have. We have units that are all inclusive, we have units that are plus utilities, and we have units that are condos. Landlords are getting hit with condo fees that are increasing, and we have utilities that are increasing to the point where the 2.2 doesn't even make sense. So this is why you might see an unlawful N12 or N13 notice. But this is, again, this is because utilities are increasing and not able to recoup it. This business, it's a business. We need to look at the numbers that we are working with here. And if the numbers don't make sense, how are we supposed to run an efficient business? We'll go downhill just like the way that social housing is, and not being able to put money into their units. So we need to kind of work that. So if we have a unit that's plus utilities, we have a certain rate. All inclusive, there's how much did your utilities rise for that unit for that year, and that way we can recoup that. And if your condo fees double, we need to recoup that cost within the rent increase for that portion. Again, back into the delays at the landlord and tenant board. How long is everyone waiting for
6
their
months for me.
hearing date? For your hearing date?
Not for the date, but for my order still, 6 months.
So you're waiting 6 months just for
Still
paper?
waiting for
Yeah,
that?
a mediated order, not even from the adjudicator. We went in September, it is now February, right? That's what it's 6 months.
The last one that I got probably within a week of me being at the board.
Oh, good for you.
Luckily, the tenant moved out before the order arrived,
Nice.
but if she wouldn't have, my order was wrong.
Oh, no.
So
And
I
if
would have
your
had to
order
go
was
back.
wrong,
I would have had to go back,
Oh.
get an amendment,
get an amendment.
wait for the amendment.
Yep.
Then apply for the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
And the current wait time in the Waterloo region is 3 weeks. In Thunder Bay is 5 to 6 weeks.
Holy cow.
So we have a major mess at hand. And I'm glad that the ombudsman is now actively investigating, but it's still going to take some time for them to do their part. So if we have, of course, we need to, as a group, we are going to be putting some questions into the group now in the next couple of weeks regarding all the landlord and tenant board forms. Which one should be heard by an adjudicator? Which one could be dealt with a customer service officer? And which ones just need to have a streamlined approach? And this way we can kind of speed up that process. Number 2, we need to make sure that if you have a hearing date in person, we would like to encourage that there is someone there writing the judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, when it's done, being typed, it's being printed, it's given to the adjudicator, the paralegal, the landlord, and the tenant. Looking at the fact that, is there any errors? No? Let's proceed. You now have your paperwork in front of you in order to go and file at the landlord and tenant board. There's 11-day standard. Crap needs to end. And again, they're trying to end it with 6 days. And now the media and the tenant activist groups are going, oh no, you're going to kick someone out in 6 days.
I wish.
Don't get me excited. When
Even if they were gone by the end of the month, that they're not paying, and like I would be happy.
if you're in a hotel and you don't pay your hotel, I'm paying my hotel for 3 days. Do you think I can, maybe I just do that. Facebook Live it, stay an extra day and see what the hotel does to me if I don't want to leave and I don't want to pay. But hey, they got my credit card. They're going to charge me anyways. But this is the portion
Well, I
when,
think the police can get called and you can actually be removed.
if the room is actually rented out, they'll probably do that. If
Yeah.
not, they'll just charge my credit card. And I'm like,
Yeah,
she's
we call the
staying
cops
night.
and they're like, this isn't a police matter.
So now that we have our forms that we need to review, and we need to be able to get everyone on the same page of which ones should be heard, but having the hearing in person and having someone there for us. But now we're putting in another aspect of speeding up this process at the landlord and tenant board is telephone hearings.
Yeah.
Now it's happening in Ontario now. Why? Because the adjudicators ain't showing up to work. We don't have enough. So, and the landlords are actually loving the telephone hearings.
Mm-hmm.
But this way, if we do telephone hearings a little bit more, maybe have an option, one is hearing, one is telephone, which one option do you want to
Yeah,
work
but if
with?
we did the telephone hearing, then we can't do the whole saying you need to have the
Paperwork in your hand?
paperwork in your hand when you leave.
Got an
So,
idea. Got
it's
an
not
idea,
fair.
guys. Jen, I got an idea for that one. You not read the paper.
I did read the paper.
Well,
I'm
this
waiting for
is
you
what
to
I
say
got.
it.
This is what I. Oh, you're just.
She's setting
You're
you up.
you're setting me up. That's so cute.
I know.
I love her. So if we're doing telephone, we want the paperwork.
Uh-huh.
We got 2 options. One, we have email.
Mm-hmm.
Email is everything. I can't even pay for my kids' pizza unless I have an email. I don't know what's happening in their school unless I have an email. I can't set up my phone unless I have an email. So if they can email the judgment to our emails, that would be beneficial. Or what if you don't have email? What if no one's really into the computer thing these days? Okay, well, they always have family and friends and whatever.
Mhm.
So put the judgment on the landlord and tenant board website. And this way, you can go onto the landlord and tenant board website, put in your case number, and boom, there's your judgment. Ready to go, print it, not on the taxpayers' dollars, but the printing and the postage that's going to be on there. This is, can you close that door?
Mm-hmm.
My husband just decided to come in and put the baby in and then not close the door. This is what happens when we work from home, folks. So now that we have the concept of
We don't have the
getting,
money to have an office.
we don't, but hey, we're working it. So now that we have the option of getting these judgments heard, getting them done either person in by phone, getting it dealt to email, or getting it downloaded from the landlord and tenant board. Now we're going to say, well, what else can we put on the landlord and tenant board website that could benefit both parties? Well, if we have Lutherwood and we have all the other agencies who are helping people out, we can have their contact information. So when these tenants are getting a notification from the customer service officer saying, I'm going to get kicked out because I got this notice, they're going to guide them over to the landlord and tenant board website, find out what area they're from, click on it. There's all the agencies that you can talk to, tell them your situation, and if they can justify paying you out of that situation, then you now have funds to give to your landlord within that 21-day cycle. Because when landlords are getting first and last month's rent, this is the part where we need to have that last month's rent to mean something, because right now it doesn't mean anything. Now, I'm rambling. I just want to make, and we got people watching, like, are you guys agreeing to what's happening? Like the type of ideas that we're really trying to push forth to the government based on the N4s and OW and ODSP, the late payments. And also, did you know that you get a late fee for not paying your credit card?
Is there?
Yeah.
I always pay my credit card.
Yeah.
Do you know that you can get a late fee for not paying your water bill?
No.
Do you know you get a late fee for not paying your car insurance?
Really?
The only thing I can really talk with is that you don't get a late fee for not paying your rent.
But you can get an early or a pay on time discount.
And then what is it? 2%?
Yeah.
2%. So if you want to pay on time discount, you can only go as far as 2%. And sometimes our landlords are very generous. If you don't pay it on the first, it was a holiday, whatever, you pay on the second, it's one thing. And then when we now need to enforce that you don't get that discount this month, that could start causing conflict between the landlord and the tenant.
Mm-hmm.
So allow us to do what the other provinces do. Allow us to charge a late fee. And it's usually $5 to $10 a day, maximum $75, maximum $100. So we start kind of giving these people incentives for the simple fact that they're late. And it would also help us make the decision when we go to the landlord and tenant board underneath the persistency of being late to say that when they were late by 8 days, this was their fee. It kind of would make us wait a little bit, knowing that every day that went by, we're getting $5. You know how much
Feels better.
It does. I can go get coffee because
My
my husband gives me crap every time I'm going to get coffee. Tim Hortons again. I'm like, yeah, I'm so rich. I need to get Tim Hortons. Luckily, Darlene brought me Starbucks tonight, though. I did not pay for this.
Well, we don't know about that yet.
Oh, crap. Hidden fees, hidden fees.
Well, everybody's allowed hidden fees except for landlords.
Yeah, no, not us. We're got a standard lease that tells people that they don't even have to give post-dated checks and automatic withdrawal. You can pay when you want to. It's like, thanks a lot for the standard lease, which I'm really not quite sure about the standard lease, because anytime I was going to the landlord and tenant board just to watch. I encourage all you to do the same. They never really asked for it, the standard lease.
The one good thing about the standard lease, though, I have to say, is that it puts everything down on paper when you first start. So that's kind of a good thing. Now they need to vamp it so that it reflects the landlord's position, because right now it's the tenant's position, but that would be better. But at least you're starting with something, everything on how much the rent is, when the rent is due, all that stuff before.
But all leases should have already had that.
I know that, that's true.
But you'd be surprised. There's a lot of landlords out there that
Exactly.
my husband's uncle for once is like, oh, can I see the lease agreement? And he gives me the application.
Right.
I'm like, that's all you need is first name, phone number, like,
No.
here's a place, But again, we have to create a system that's black and white. It can't be so complicated. Another part that we really want to push forth is that landlords were required to hire a legal rep to represent you. Your property managers can't represent you at the board. They're now getting sticky on who is filling out the actual forms for you.
Yeah, that's true.
If you keep putting costs to the landlords will have to pass it to the tenant. Allow the landlords to go ahead and hire whoever they want, because I would love to be able to say, Jen, I got a case here. I need you to go and fight it for me. You know your stuff. Just, the best,
I'd 100% do it for you.
do it, But now I got the paralegal over here. No offense to any of our paralegals over here, but we have the point where it's costly. And there's landlords now telling me that they're being charged $1,400 for a non-payment of rent with their paralegal. And this is, the paralegals are sitting at the landlord and tenant board and they say, here's my case number. Yes, adjudicator, this is the amount. Yes, it's a standard order. No reason to deny. Okay, you get your judgment in the mail. Next case, same thing. Over. It's like, come on. Like, we don't need to be doing that. Can't be wasting our money. This is a business. You need to make sure that the business is working for you instead of against you.
Mhm.
But if the tenant I've witnessed it with my own eyes. A tenant is capable of appointing someone to represent them at the board. They have to have it in writing. This person that showed up at the board did not have anything in writing, but he said he can get the person on the phone, the tenant on the phone. And then the adjudicator's like, yeah, okay, I'll talk to them on the phone. I'm like, you have no clue who that was. And this is the part where we get back into the fact that maybe some of our cases could be dealt with through mediation. Another part of our solution.
Yeah, before the hearing.
Before the
That would
hearing.
be great.
Because right now, if you have a court date in itself, like right now, ours is actually inside of a hockey arena. There's no seating, by the way. I had to go there when I was 9 months pregnant. Not really fun. And when they're finally in there, they get to have everybody in a room, and then they will say, you know, we have duty counsel. Anyone, you know, tenants needing duty counsel, raise your hand. Poor landlords are raising their hand wanting duty counsel. Sorry, this is just for tenants. Then we have the mediator. Anyone wanting to mediate? Both parties need to accept, and then they're gone off and they're doing the mediation. And then once they're done their mediation, then they come back in front of the adjudicator. They totally skip all of us waiting that didn't do mediation, and they get their case heard in front of the adjudicator just to put it down on paperwork. And some of the mediation agreements are really out to lunch. There's this one couple who was out in the arrears $19,000, and they said they were going to have it paid by the end of August.
Wow.
And when they got to sit in front of the adjudicator, he said, like, you're agreeing to this? Yeah. They said, well, I have a question. How long is it before the sheriff comes to evict us? If you plan to pay $19,000 before the end of August, now you're asking the adjudicator, like, why can't these adjudicators, A, be persistent in their judgments? Number two, they need to have a full report of each tenant that is coming to the landlord and tenant board.
Mm-hmm.
You're there for non-payment of rent, I get it, but if there's other things that are being brought up based on those tenants, those cases need to be heard. This is what a hearing is all about. Because sometimes when you talk to a security guard at the landlord and tenant board, and they will tell you, I feel so bad for some of these landlords here.
I see that person here all the time.
Yeah, we see the same person here every time, just with a different landlord. People are knowing the abuse, that they know the system, they know the loopholes, and by them doing that one bad thing to that one landlord, you now possibly cost yourself a unit that is desperately needed in today's market. And inside of the government report, it will state that they are going to lose 100,000 affordable units, 100,000 affordable units in the next decade. And this is based on programs that they've created throughout the years, where they say, if you do this and we'll do this, this is going to be a 20-year contract. These investors are not signing up with those contracts. So we have to keep putting supply in there. And if you give landlords the proper tools and a proper system to work with, you will see them actually going ahead and putting more units on the market. And we need to convince these homeowners. And the way that the Act and the LTB is right now, we're not convincing them to do any type of home ownership. It is not working. Now, what else am I missing?
You know what would make some people want to possibly rent out their basement?
No.
How about deposits? You got deposits?
Damage deposit?
You know, if we can you go, please? He's literally dancing there. Like, he's got lots of people to he just needs to go in his chair right now. He's fed, he's ready to go. There's nothing I need to do. So we have damage deposits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing some really nasty things that are being posted in our group regarding different type of damages that tenants are doing. And it could go downhill from a non-payment of rent to interfering with others' rights in the unit. But do we offer, first and last and damage deposit? Is it going to be affordable for the people? Because we have to think, I come from a family of tenants. My husband comes from a family of landlords. So what we propose is that landlords are taking their before and after pictures, stamped and dated, make sure it's stamped and dated, of the unit before the tenants move in. Once the tenants move in and they live their life and you do your normal inspections, either through the tenancy or after the tenancy, if you go in there and you see that this unit is not being taken care of, there's holes in the walls, there's damages beyond the normal wear and tear, then there's going to be a remedy of getting them to fix it, to either to pay for the money to actually fund it. I hope you guys don't hear this right now.
She's talking about the baby crying.
Yes. The baby.
No, that's not her talking.
I'm trying to multitask, guys. I don't know. If you want to fire me for advocating, just let me know. And now we have the concept of getting these inspections done to find out exactly where these units apply. And if you can charge someone with mischief or vandalism, this is something where we want to be able to do that. Because if I'm I go over to your house and I punch in your wall, the cops get called, I'm getting charged with mischief, vandalism.
Damn right you are.
And then if I'm a tenant in your home,
Yeah.
I could speed up everyone's unit just to prove a point. But this is the part where they need to be able to have some type of repercussion for their type of damages. Because you put your fist inside of that kitchen cabinet, guess what? You need a new kitchen cabinet set. I don't think they sell doors just to match that same type of thing that you got going on there. And if not, you're putting hunky-dory thing going in there, and it's going to be really hard for you to now rent that out for the next type of tenant.
Yep.
So we have this type of policy in place to the point where it's more of telling the tenants that they need to respect what is not theirs. This is a lot of money and time that goes into these landlords' rental units, and if the landlord doesn't fix them themselves, it becomes really costly for them to go and get it fixed elsewhere. Now that cause it done.
Well, this is kind of the pet deposit, which is kind of linked into the damage deposit.
It is, and it is going to be linked in based on if the landlord is doing their part on it. So it's going to be the part where we're trying to go ahead and get his money. We can't really put it, because sometimes you can't work on the pet deposit. We have the pet deposit, and you have it for their personal support worker dog. I'm gonna have to figure out how to end this conversation soon, because my husband cannot seem to console the baby.
No, your husband has the baby at the moment. He just saw him walk by.
No wonder he's crying. He just met yours for the first time. No wonder and then he's like pointing at the clock. I'm like, we got on late and we're not done all the solutions.
I know, but he has to pick up Kendra.
Yeah, he's good. She said 9:30, if not later. So now we got the pet deposit. It's going to work itself into the damage deposit, but making sure that your tenants are making sure that they're getting their license from their city. So the cities, and most cities in Ontario require you to get a pet license, making sure that your tenants have that pet license. And it shows them to be responsible pet owners as well. So making sure that they have that. And if not, there's a fine to the tenants for not having their pet deposit or their pet license. Now we talked about, let me see.
Private bailiffs, is that the one you want to look on?
So the government already talked about private bailiffs. We'll try and go through things a little quicker and try to come back on another Facebook Live to really talk it in detail, hopefully when the baby's sleeping and my husband's, a little bit more experienced handling children. So we got the private bailiffs where we have, the government already stated that they look into privatization. That again, it's going to be like, do you want to wait for the government one to wait, or do you want to hire someone else? And again, you're providing more jobs into our industry, and it allows us to not wait 3 weeks or even 6 to 8 weeks, such in Thunder Bay. This is what we really need to do. Providing legal aid. Like I mentioned, to the tenants and not the landlords, we have to either A, give it to both parties, if not remove it from both parties and let them handle themselves, just like the way that Newfoundland does. There's no legal reps inside of it. It's the landlords, it's the tenants. But if they really want to push it, for the simple fact that they need to keep the paralegals and our duty counsel employed, this is about getting ourselves into the they have to go and seek legal aid before their hearing date, because sometimes they're using that as a tactic at the landlord and tenant board in order to get an adjournment, so that they have to again apply back to get another hearing date, causing another backlog. We also want to be able to work in the forms to make them really user-friendly, black and white, not make it so complicated. Oh, sorry, you got the wrong form. We want to remove the 72-hour wait
yes,
time for the tenant's belongings. They know that they haven't paid. They know the sheriff has been booked, and they know exactly when at 9 o'clock in the morning is when the sheriff is coming to evict. You need to make sure that their stuff is out. If not, that's it. We're not giving you 72 hours. We already went on. If you look day by day at what your rent is and a day cost, you're still losing more money on it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we want to talk about municipalities and the way that the municipalities are going ahead and with landlord licensing. Landlord licensing, they're trying to reinvent the wheel. That's something that's already been in place. Why are we going to go ahead and continue to reinvent something that's obviously costly to the taxpayers? And with landlord licensing, landlords can apply for this very long wait time to raise the rent above the guideline. So you're going to pass a cost to the landlord would again pass it on to the tenant. We have our water billing. Our water billing is making landlords responsible for a third party's debt. We are not the end user. They are. Yes, it's our business, but they are using it, and they could say it's a human right. If they don't use it, cut it off.
Because if they, like in Cambridge here, our water bill, we get the notice for like if it hasn't been paid. And
you
sometimes,
said it to yourself, yeah.
And sometimes it's the tenant pays it on the day it's due. And
Right.
they send out a notice to us saying that it's late, even though the tenant paid it the day that it was due.
Right.
And they don't like I get the complaint all the time, why do you know when I paid my bill or
Right.
when I didn't? It's my bill. Like our tenants are pissed that they're
being
business.
monitored. We're
Their
collections.
business
We're a collection agency on behalf of the city. What kind of business? They take over the water billing. They're taking the profits and then passing the losses to a third party. This is where it's to the point where we think that when it was put into the municipal act, it was put in there for you, the homeowner, being able to not pay your water bill and it being put to your property taxes because you use the water bill. All fair and dandy, but you're the renter. It shouldn't be going to the landlord's property taxes. And it also causes more heartache to property managers who now have to do an extra task for their client and try to play Mr. Collections. So we have all different moving parts. We have provincial issues, we have municipal issues, we have banking issues. We need to keep getting money, but they look at our rents and say, sorry, they're too low. How are we supposed to continue to refinance, to keep investing in this industry when the banks are even holding us in handcuffs?
Yep.
So we have all these different type of ways that are actually, they are sustainable systems. It's a way to promote and encourage investors into this industry. And it's a way to utilize the tools the government already has and take their funding and stop. I kind of work it as, if you have money, you give it to the banker and tell the banker to make you money, it really doesn't make you money. But if I gave my money to you and told you to make it grow, you make it grow. Give us the money. Instead of putting it into social housing and social managers and adjudicators and emergency funding, give it to us and we'll help you make it grow. So now my mission is, until the spring, because there's a bill coming out in the spring from the ministry, they have this report. Ombudsman has this report. The Attorney General has this report. I think everyone and his mother has this report. We want to see this push through in order to keep us in the industry and to encourage more landlords in the industry. We were just in Mississauga in January. We're in Kitchener as of last week. We're going to be in Ottawa on February 29th at Tony Miller's event for his conference up there. It's going to be dynamite. They have Arlene Dickinson. I'm going to be on stage with Arlene Dickinson.
She's super excited.
I'm going to pass out. She may not be there. I don't know if she's going to be there when I speak, but hopefully I nail the speech and get more people on board with the movement of what we're trying to do. And if you have any time, please, I want you guys to come up in Ottawa. We need more warriors to win this war. And that's why I'm taking this trot all the way up to Ottawa with 4 kids in the car, a 4-month-old who, obviously, if you can hear him crying through the street.
He loves his mommy.
He just loves me. I'm going 6 hours with this kid to be there to bring more people into this movement, because we're going to be more powerful. It's not going to be about, the president of a landlords association doing this for us and she's going to do it. This is about me teaching you what to do, because it's going to be the fact that we have what's more of an impact, a wolf or a pack of wolves. what's going to be that more, the support that we have to get us where we need to be. So, and then we're going to be in Hamilton, I believe, and coming up in March. We're going to be at a Cambridge event coming up in March as well, and a Scots event. We're going to be getting as wherever we can to tell these people that they need to get the report. They need to send it into these elected officials. Yeah, they may already have it, but when they see that more investors are sending the exact same report, they know you believe in it. And they know that this is what you want, and this is what's going to continue to get you to invest. So this is how we're going to be able to work together as a united voice. Now, again, when we talk about class action lawsuits, we have the ombudsman that's going ahead and doing their investigation. No law firm is going to touch this right now until they get that report. So we want to make sure that you guys are doing your part. Share people, the group information of the Ontario Landlords Watch. We have a lot of people still trying to get in, but if you add them in and we see that you're a member, that you're an active member, and that you are inviting them into the group, we are going to look at them first before anybody else that's in there. And we want to make sure that you are going to be, you messed me up.
Sorry, I just saw somebody post something, so I wanted to read it.
Oh, so how about being able to garnish from those public assistance in their legal? And again, this is about the funding that we want to put over to from Lutherwood and the savings from the adjudicators. They need to tap into that, where the money is going to come to us. It doesn't have to be that we're garnishing them per se. It's about the government backing them, because they know it costs a lot more money. And I just talked to a social worker that was inside of the hospitals, and they can't find housing for the people who are that turn up inside of the hospitals, that they have to keep them, and it costs them $400 a day to keep someone in our housing system. And if you deal with this housing crisis, then we won't be seeing an influx of need on our hospitals. We won't. It's a trickle effect that we have with this housing crisis, and we're here to tell the government we're here to help you, but you need to help us first. Same with our slogan that we had for the conference: help landlords, help tenants. It shouldn't be rocket science, but again, we have social franchises that are making it to be like, keep this crisis happening, because people are funding those type of agencies and their jobs are at risk. We need to say we have the solutions. Listen to the small landlords. We can help you, but in order to help you, you need to pull off the Band-Aid. You need to pull off the Band-Aid.
Eric's leaving to pick up Kendra.
I'm going to so divorce that guy. I'm divorcing him. He just looked at me. And went out. I hope you guys were able, I hope I didn't talk too fast, and I'm sorry I didn't let them chime in a little bit more, but we have the spring, guys. Call the ombudsman, email them, contact your media, get your stories out there. And you know what? Next time in the spring, we'll see what the bill holds, what it holds for our future. And maybe we need to start providing the toothpaste for the same price, which is less toothpaste in the tube. So if you have a rental property and it's an apartment, you usually provide the fridge and stoves. Maybe we need to stop. Maybe we need to put it on a different plan. Maybe they need to pay a rental on it. Maybe they just get sticky tile instead of ceramic. This is the extent that landlords can do to kind of protest, because we can't say, hey, we're not going to be paying, we're not going to be putting any maintenance in, because property standards will come. We're too much of a busy working class of people. We can't go and pitch a tent out on Queen's Park and do our protest there. And we can't even say we're not going to rent out our units. So, raise your rent right now. Raise it after the tenants leave, making sure that you don't provide the best of the best inside there until the government does start listening to us. But again, make sure that you're being a good landlord. Put the customer service that is really much needed into this, and make sure that you are being the ones that don't give us a bad name and make us greedy. But a lot of these landlords, they're not getting rich quick. This is a long time retirement plan. And if you think you're going to get rich in a heartbeat by investing into real estate, you might have your luck of buying a unit that's underpriced and potentially trying to offload it really quickly. But this is a long-term investment. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you're doing your part. I look forward to getting everyone's comment. Again, email us at olwlandlords gmail.com. If you are planning to get up to Ottawa, I believe they still have a few tickets left. If you use OLW as your discount code, you get $50 off. And I hope to see a lot of our members there, because this is, again, the way they're advocating so much in Ottawa, and I'm so delighted to be a part of their lineup for, again, this year. And that we're hoping to do a Facebook Live up there as well, because Darlene's coming up. She's going to Cuba.
Sorry.
Whatever. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I had it booked before I knew.
I had a baby, you couldn't go. But anyways, we won't get on that part of it because I'll start crying. But I want to thank everyone for being in the group and sharing the information that is there, and make sure that you are being respectful to one another. If you see a comment at a post that you find offensive, remember, we like to make sure that people have a freedom of speech within the group, and we will delete some for the protection of our members inside of there. But we look forward to doing another Facebook Live soon, and doing another Instagram broadcast, because it was the first time for us to do Instagram, and just keep building us. We have more power in numbers, and keep getting to your media. If anyone needs help contacting their elected official, please let me know. If you have an event that you want us to come speak at, we're more than happy to get there. And we have the spring, guys, so we got to put the pedal to the metal. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we look forward to more comments and on the report, and we can't wait to be with everybody up in Ottawa.
No more happy renting?
Happy renting. So Instagram got to see the